At Apollo, safety is a value, not a priority, and we are committed to embracing an injury-free workplace. This video is for informative purposes only and should not be used in place of hands-on training. Make sure you have been cleared by your supervisor before using this machine. This machine is our elbow machine. It has different sets of dies on each side. We'll go over both of those. There is no real on-off switch. It does have a neutral, which is here. And if I'm on this side of the machine, I want the knob away from you. Some of the specific hazards for this machine is that it does rotate and spin. So when you are using it, I need to keep my hand as far away from the moving parts as possible. With that in mind, you do need to have leather cut level 4 gloves. The other gloves are really sticky and they tend to catch the metal as it's spinning, so leather gloves, very important when using this machine. Prior to starting it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my back gauge for how deep I want my bead to go in. In this case, I'm doing an elbow. Typically it's 2.5 inches. So you come up here, you can stick your tape, check it there. To adjust it, you just loosen the 2 knobs and it can slide in and out to your depth. Capacity on this machine is no more than 18 gauge. Anything heavier than that, we typically don't use these machines. It turns into more of like a welded fitting, so check with your supervisor if you do need to do something heavier than 18 gauge. Typically we won't need to. There is an adjustment here on the top of the roll. If you feel like your bead's not big enough, then you can adjust the tightness here and go from there. So now that I'm ready to go, I want my metal all the way up against the backstop as flat as possible. I bring this down about halfway and then I hit the pedal and let it go. And I keep my hand away from the rolls while it's going. Now I've already gone once, I'll bring it down all the way. Let it go 1 or 2 more times usually. And right there I have created a bead which another piece will slide in and it creates a stop. Then they can screw their metal after that. If I do have something in smaller diameter, we do have this guard here. What will happen is if you start to go, the piece will actually end up getting sucked into right here, and you can either mess up your piece or mess up your finger. So what this guard does is it just clamps on right here. Typically we just grab a pair of vice grips, 2 pairs, 1 on each side, and go from there, and then reset your depth because this tends to come out a little bit. So this is the swedge side of the machine. What it does is it will flare the metal out, so the next piece can come into it, and then we spot weld it together. It's just a fast, efficient way. Everything applies to this as it did on the other side. You can set your depth. It typically stays the same, right at 1/4 inch. Every once in a while you have to move it, but typically you shouldn't need to. And then it's basically the same thing. I'm going to come down. I have my adjustment up here if I need to tighten or loosen it. And it's done the same way. I'll come about a little less than halfway probably. I got my hands clear and I let it. And when you're running this machine, you want the material to run away from you also. So that just flares it out, and that is what we call a swedge. Remember, Apollo expects each worker to go home in the same condition as they came to work. Anything less is not acceptable. If you are unsure, stop and ask. Home healthy, home safe.